Hello Internet, TheStabbyBrit here. We've got a lot to get through today, because I've got two games to talk about. I'm going to be talking about Hyperdimensional Neptunia, Rebirth. I think I got that title right, probably didn't. And Warhammer End Times, Vermintide. Yes, so this is the day of long titles and titles with excessive punctuation. Try not to get too confused. These are two very, very different games, but they're both games that I really needed to get reviewed before now. And I've had a lot of fun with both of them, albeit for very different reasons. So let's start with the game I most recently played, which is Hyperdimensional Neptunia Rebirth. So I'll begin this video with an apology. I'm sorry I don't have any footage. My attempts to screen capture this and Vermintide for that matter both ended in abject failure, so I gave up. Because if at first you don't succeed, you should just let the dream die. So, Hyperdimensional Neptunia. What is this game? Well, it's a traditional Japanese RPG for the most part, albeit one that actually has made some effort to modernise the traditional turn-based combat system a little bit, which is nice, because as much as I love traditional turn-based combat, it is a bit dull point-and-clicky. Now, the controls for this game were not great. It was clearly designed with the Xbox controller in mind, and all the fucking key prompts are Xbox-based, which would be fine if I was playing on an Xbox. But I'm not, I'm playing on the PC. Keyboard inputs would be nice. Mouse inputs would be nice. But whatever, we can deal with janky controls, we can work around it. And I did work around it, and I'm glad I did. So this is a very tongue-in-cheek game. The game is set in the magical realm of Celestia, where four goddesses, who look like schoolgirls and wear enough clothing for perhaps one of them, fight over control of game industry. Yes, you can already tell where this is going, can't you? By this point, the console war has been waging for hundreds of years. The four goddesses are at a stalemate, and a mysterious voice emerges to upset the balance of power by convincing three of them to attack the most powerful of the goddesses, which is, of course, the one with the largest breasts. Our heroine, Neptune, plunges from heaven and winds up with amnesia, because of course she does. After quickly stumbling across some helpful types, she makes some friends and decides to go on a quest to regain her lost memory, and more importantly, the magical BDSM outfit that gives her superpowers. Now this is a game full of very bad jokes and classic Japanese action. And if both of these things are not enough to hold your attention, don't worry, there's plenty of softcore porn and fan service scattered about. And if you're concerned about the fact you're getting a boner over a character that physically resembles a 10-year-old, don't worry, it's a Japanese game. That makes it cultural enrichment and not paedophilia as it would in the Western world. But all joking aside, this game is really nicely done. I love the graphics, it's weird and wonderful story, I love its nice blend of modern gaming styles and classic turn-based fun. I like everything about it so far. It does have a little bit of a visual novel feel to it in places, which I'm not that keen on it, but it's certainly not a deal breaker. This is definitely worth a look if you are a fan of traditional Japanese RPGs, and you really don't mind if games don't take themselves too seriously. But speaking of games that take themselves really, really seriously, it's time to talk about Warhammer End Times, Vermintide. So if you're a fan of the Warhammer universe, and by that I mean the actual Warhammer universe, not that bullshit Age of Sigmar crap, then I can sell this game to you with just a few simple words. Left 4 Dead in Warhammer. That should be all you need to know. Go and buy the game and play it. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Warhammer, let me flesh this out a little bit more. It's Left 4 Dead in a fantasy setting, where instead of zombies, you have giant rat men. There are 5 characters to choose from. You can play as a Scottish dwarf who likes axes and shields. You can play as a Welsh elf who likes a bow and really should piss off because nobody likes the Welsh. You have an Imperial captain who uses big weapons and blunderbuss. You have the Bright Wizard, who I'm not going to bother describing because this is my 7th fucking take trying to do so. And then you have the Witch Hunter, who is the best character of all, because he's a fucking witch hunter. For each level, 4 of these characters band together. Any that aren't controlled by players are, of course, controlled by the AI, which is a bit hit and miss, to be honest. And you charge into the map, trying to complete missions, while all the while fending off an endless horde of Skaven. Now, ordinary Skaven aren't too much of a problem, even in small numbers. The problem is their numbers don't stay small for very long, and the game loves taking every opportunity to throw huge waves of Skaven at you from all directions, especially in situations where it would be really inconvenient to do so. And of course, because the Skaven have no word for fair, they have all kinds of powerful specialists they can throw at you as well. There are the Storm Vermin, who are very strong, heavily armoured, and pretty much have to be taken down with headshots. There are the Rattling Gunners, who have miniguns. Yes, this is a fantasy game where the enemy has miniguns. Welcome to Warhammer. Then, of course, there's the rat ogre, which is a rat the size of an ogre. You also have the gas rats that throw poison gas grenades, the assassins that leap around the map like fucking Spider-Man, and my favourite of all, the trapper. This bastard will latch onto you with a grappling hook and start dragging you around the map. You are completely helpless while grappled, and if your team don't save you, he'll basically string you up and let you choke to death. He is a fucking nightmare and must be killed with extreme prejudice. So naturally the game will make sure he always spawns when one of you is just a little bit too far away and there are 300 Skaven between you and the rest of the party. Because fuck you, this is what Warhammer games do. I really must emphasise, this is a game where you should probably expect to lose and lose often. At least until you know what you're doing, and I certainly don't know what I'm doing yet. This is also a game where you should probably play with friends, because it makes it so much more fun to be able to talk to people online while you play. One prime example of this is when Link and I were wandering happily through some alleyways. We just cleaned out some Skaven, things were going well, and then from the back of the party, I hear a cry of alarm. I turn around to see what all the fuss is about, and lo and behold, our dwarven friend is fighting a rat ogre. Where the fuck it came from, I will never know. I had just walked down the alley 5 seconds before, and there was certainly no rat ogre there. There was barely enough room for 2 Skaven abreast, yet somehow a fucking walking tank has appeared out of nowhere and is beating the shit out of my dwarf friend. And then of course there's the absolutely hilarious time in another mission where upon opening a door I was beset by half a dozen storm vermin, and when desperately backpedaling to escape them, from around the corner, out of nowhere, comes a fucking rattling gunner, a nice clear unobstructed field of fire on my sweet virgin arsehole. This is quite possibly the most unfair game I've ever played since Mordheim, and I love it. Because it just feels like the right kind of unfairness. It feels like the sort of unfairness that you could beat if you were just a little bit smarter. Like maybe if you just hang back and use your ranged weapons for a change, or let the most heavily armoured character go in first, then maybe you could have dealt with it. Or maybe if you'd just been paying a bit more attention to your surroundings because you know from the outset the Skaven are absolutely fucking everywhere. The game makes it very clear you are in hostile territory, beset from all sides. And when you forget this, you suffer. So it's your own damn fault you keep dying, really. And I like that. I really do. It's very satisfying. Not every game does it right, but I think this one does. Definitely want to spend more time playing Vermintide. Ideally, less time with bots, more time with real people. So that's about it for my short and sweet reviews. I do apologise at the lack of gameplay footage, but as ever, I am perpetually beset by technical problems. Maybe one day this will not be the case, but I really won't hold my breath. And now I am left with a difficult question. Do I want to beat up some Skaven, or beat off to some hentai? TheStabbyBrit signing out.